Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. Welcome to this walkthrough for everyone's favorite dice sumo game, Road to Yokozuna. Road to Yokozuna is a game played on Discord, which you can see here. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's a pretty popular chat program, especially among gamers. You can check it out at discord.com, it's pretty easy to use. The purpose of this video is to show you where to go and what to do to play the game once you've joined the Road to Yokozuna Discord server, how to make your wrestler, play through some training fights, and where to go for all the most important stuff involved in playing the game. The RTY Discord server has a lot of channels, and when you're brand new it can be easy to get lost among all the information at your disposal without a path to follow. We have a lot of very helpful mods, or Gyoji as we've titled them, who are happy to walk new players through the process, but sometimes you just want to be able to do it yourself, you know? There are times where you need a Gyoji's help, and I'll talk about those, but the goal here is for you to be able to do as much as you can unassisted. So let's get started. So the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to join the welcome channel. You're going to see more channels on my screen than you will on yours. That's just because I'm a Gyoji, so I have access to more stuff. Don't worry about it. When you're in the welcome channel, you're going to go to the pins first. So your name is going to show up and say, hey, so-and-so, welcome to Road to Yokozuna. And someone's probably going to say hello to you. And most times of the day, someone's around and they'll be very friendly, say, hey, you know, what's going on? Who's your favorite Ozeki? Whatever. But the stuff you need to know is in the pins. So let's look at that real quick. The rookie guide is your main thing. But before I get to that, I want to show you the other two pins. There's the Road to Yokozuna trailer and the Road to Yokozuna fighting system and bot interface. These videos are going to be linked in the description alongside the very, very, very new Road to Yokozuna wiki. Like, it just got launched, it's still very much under construction. All that's going to be linked in the description, and I'm going to try to minimize how much I copy the information that's in those places, especially in these videos. So the trailer is just kind of a basic overview of the game. The fighting system and bot interface video tells you how to actually do the matches, the most important part of the game. I'm not going to talk about that too much because of that. So to learn how that works, watch that video. It's very, very good. The main thing you're going to want is the rookie guide. So let's click on that and go there. As you can see, we've got a couple pictures. We got Ura, we got Wakamoto Haru. These are just sample pictures of guys who might fit the starting values you see there in the middle of the screen. Here's what you do. You click File and then make a copy. These instructions are down here at the bottom. So we'll do that. So File, make a copy of Rookie Guide. This will make a exact copy, but this is something that you can play with. You can actually change things. So like this drop-down menu is now available to you. So once we've made the copy of the sheet, you need to do step 2, fill in your details and build your Rikishi. You can choose a starting type or build your own stats. So the starting type is, I have it on custom here, but there's Yotsu. So this is a good setup if you like the type of wrestlers that grab the belt and throw people around like that. If you like the wrestlers who do throws, a Negete specialist, this is a good stat setup. Or if you just want to come up with your own stat layout, you can just do custom. You just have to have 15 points total and nothing can be lower than 2. So you need to also to put your Discord name and Shikona. For the moment, I'm just going to put Shikona. You can use whatever you want. It's just got to be appropriate to the sport, not offensive, anything like that. Next step, take a screenshot of the sheet and post it in Gyoji Hotline. If you don't know how to do a screenshot, ask in there. Most people probably know how to do that, so I don't want to spend any time on that. So let's say my stats are 4, 4, 2, 2, 3. It might be difficult to see, I apologize. You can put in whatever picture you want, you know, that's your choice. So my stats are 15, I'm all set up, and you see it says register Shikona 44223. As you change these numbers, as you change your name, this box will also change. That takes us to number 4. Copy the text in the black box and paste it into bot commands, the bot commands channel. So we copy paste, Control C, Command C if you're on a Mac. If you're on a mobile, I don't know. Sorry, you'll have to figure that one out yourself. And then we go to the bot commands channel. So you just paste that information here. You see it's got register, your name, your stats. The B20 is the part of the dice that get used for figuring out what happens during the matches. That gets explained in the fighting interface video, so watch that for that information. I'm not going to hit enter because I already have a character, but you hit enter and then that will get you set up in the system in at least a basic way. Once you've done that and posted your screenshot here in the Gyoji hotline channel, as we can see this person has done, you are okay to start doing matches. That's all it takes. You can start partaking in the game itself. Not the official Bashos yet. There's still a little more that has to be done for that, but you can start doing some practicing and you can start doing your training matches. The training matches are important because they make sure that you have figured out how to play the game in at least a basic way, and that's how you start getting more ability points, more ways to add to your stats. The first thing you do is fight through the pre-sumo matches. In real life, pre-sumo was called Maizumo. That's literally what it means, is pre-sumo. There's 3 opponents that you fight, all bots. There are computer opponents for you to face. And those 3 matches are how you start. Generally, for these pre-sumo matches, we suggest that people go to the beginner's training camp. Please disregard the information here right now. This is where we ask very, very new people to come and do their early matches, especially the pre-sumo stuff. So the names of the pre-sumo bots, the computer opponents that you'll have, are Maizuoshi, Maizumoto, and Maizukaze. To face them, you use the spar command. On the screen now, you can see that it says spar each of them and then advance. The reason I have advance there is because, advance sounds more complicated. It gives you more information, but it actually makes the fight easier. So let me show you how that works. So if I put in spar Maizuoshi and I just put that, it'll say, it'll start the match. And I pick my move. So these are my moves and the stats connected with these moves for me. So let's do quick. It's my best move. Should be okay. So I got the higher roll. I won. I have to choose what stance I want next. So I'll go with Yotsu. And the Maizumo bots are very weak. So for me, who has been playing for a while, it's generally best to just use your best moves because you're going to have a huge advantage. So I'll pick my best move, the 22. Never mind what the plus is for right now. And that's the match. We've just redone all of the move sets, so a lot of the moves are actually new compared to just a month ago. There are animated victories for some of the types of Kimurite, some of the types of finishing moves, but some of them don't have that yet. We'll get them all set up in time. So, okay, I won that match. Awesome. If I do advance, though, this is what I get. I'll face the same bot. So here you can see my numbers are in the middle, but then the computer's moves are on the left and the right. And you can see countered by and counters. I can see what moves the computer might pick that counter my moves, and countering, again, that's something in the fight interface video. But if you can counter your opponent's selection, rock, paper, scissors style, that's a very good thing. That gives you a pretty good advantage. And if you can counter, and if they counter yours, that's not great. That gives them a pretty good advantage. So, the computer's highest one is evasive. Maybe I am worried about him doing that, so I'll pick something else. His lowest one is powerful, so I'll go with reserved, even though that's my lowest. I mean, you can think about this all day. If you've played rock, paper, scissors, they're going to pick rock, so I'm going to pick paper. But what if they think I'm going to pick paper? They might pick scissors, so should I pick rock? That's basically this whole game. Okay, so again, I won the roll, so now I have different stances to choose from. I will choose Oshi. So check mark to confirm. So I'll choose Oshidashi. That's my best one. Oh, see, the computer countered me, but because I have so many stats, I was still able to win. And this is the animation I was talking about. Oshidashi is a move that we had in the past, so we have an animation for it. This is what you'll do for your first 3 matches. Like I said, Maizuoshi, Maizumoto, Maizukaze. Now, something to know is that bots have personalities. If you're thinking, well, how do I know what the bot is going to do? Like, is it just pick your best move and cross your fingers? No, not really. Every bot has a personality. In this case, Maizuoshi has a basic personality, so it likes to pick its best moves. Maizumoto has an aggressive personality, so it likes to choose the counters to your best moves. And Maizukaze has a defensive personality, which means it avoids your strongest moves. So if you're fighting Maizuoshi, in this case, its highest moves are these 2 8s. So that's probably what it's going to pick. It's not a guarantee, but it'll probably pick one of those 2 things. If it had because it has a basic personality, if it had an aggressive personality, it would look at my stats. My best one is a 19. So it would probably be most likely to pick this Inashi move because that counters my 19. My next best one is an 18. So it might also be pretty likely to choose Tawara Kaiten because that counters my 18. It would be less likely to choose the move that counters my weakest choice. See how that works? Defensive is often the hardest personality for people to understand because you're not figuring out what the computer is going to do. You're trying to figure out what the computer isn't going to do. Again, it looks at my strongest move, so Oshidashi is 19. If it had a defensive personality, it would avoid choosing the Makakai because my strongest move counters it. It would probably avoid choosing Inashi because my next strongest move counters it. Hopefully that makes sense. Every bot has different personalities, but the Maizumo bots have the simplest personalities. So if you think about that, you might have a little bit of an advantage against them. Once you're done with these matches, we scroll back up and we find the Gyoji hotline channel again. You tell them, hey, I went 1 and 2, 2 and 1, 3 and 0, 0 and 3. Just tell them how you did in those 3 matches. Then you actually need a Gyoji's help. The Gyoji will do a couple of things. The main thing they will do is they will give you more stat points, more training points to use. They'll go to the training channel, which we'll scroll down, training and injury rolls. So you can see, for example, here we've got the 40-40 T10. Never mind the equation. You can find that later. So every roll over 10 will get you a training point. You can get up to 4 that way, and then you have 3 more added on automatically. When you're new, we give you a minimum of 5. So even if you have an absolutely god-awful roll, if you get all 1s so that it looks like you should only get 3 training points, we're still going to give you 5. But most people end up getting 7 or at least 6. Once you get those training points, you can add them to your stats. Remember that register command? You can then add those points to those stats you initially had and give yourself better stats. For example, if we go to the bot commands channel, we are back to our 4-4-2-2-3, but let's say I have 7 more training points. I want to go with 4. Well, let's do 6. Well, that's 4 of my points. And then 4, and where do we put the 7th one? We'll put it here. 6, 6, 4, 3, 3. So now I've added my 7 points, and I can hit enter again, and I will now have better statistics. There is one rule, which for new people usually doesn't come into play because you don't have enough stats yet, but your highest stat has to be within 5 of your 3rd highest stat. And that might take a little bit of wrapping your head around, but here are some examples. As you can see here, the legal stat lines have the 3rd stat is 5 or less away from the highest stat. And the illegal stat lines, there's a bigger gap. The whole idea is that, 1, it's to keep newer players from loading up on a couple of stats and then being really injury prone in the lower stats and that causing them problems. The other thing is that if people really focus too hard on just 1 or 2 stats, it can actually skew the way the game works. So we would prefer for game balance purposes that people have at least 3 relatively even statistics. The next step, once you've got these training points put in place, is to run the rookie gauntlet. This is the biggest part of being a new player. It's 9 matches against slightly more complicated bots, and how you do determines your exact placement in the next Basho on the Banzuke. Now, where exactly you end up in the long run doesn't really matter that much, so don't sweat it if you don't do that well. But if you can get a winning record, if you can get, 6 wins, 7 wins against the 9 opponents, that's really hard. It's very rare to even see someone go 6-3. So if you can do that, that's kind of a feather in your cap. Now, like I said, these bots are a little more complicated, and by that I mean they have more complicated personalities. For one, the personality system is set up so that bots can have points in more than one type of personality. For example, if a bot has 4 points in basic and 1 in aggressive, then we say it has 5 personality points. Because it has the 4 in basic, every round it has a 4 in 5 chance of adopting a basic strategy. It wants to pick one of its best moves, but it has a 1 in 5 chance of taking an aggressive strategy. It tries to counter one of your best moves. This makes the bots a little more unpredictable. They can still be figured out in a way. You can at least come up with, well, this is more likely or this is less likely, but it's a lot harder to figure out exactly what the bot is going to do. If you want to see what you're going up against with a given bot, you can go to bot commands, which were already here, and use this command, !Rikishi, and then the name of the bot. The bots that you're going to face are Makunoumi, Makushoryu, Makuyaki, Makuwashi, Makunojo, Makuyama, Makufuji, Makuryu, and Makuho. So let's say we want to look up Makushoryu. Rikishi Makushoryu, this tells us its stats and its personality type. You get to see the exact personality setup for any bot that you look up this way. So as you can see, Makushoryu is the example that I just gave, 4 in basic, 1 in aggressive. A different bot, we'll say Makunojo, he's got 4 in basic and 2 in balanced. So now we see there is another personality type coming into play. In fact, there's 2. Balanced is an exact mix of basic, aggressive, and defensive. If a bot has a balanced personality type, or if it uses its balanced personality type, it has a 1 in 3 chance of taking a basic, aggressive, or defensive strategy. So if some bot has balanced personality points, that means it's even harder to predict. It's important to realize that just because a bot has a balanced personality, that doesn't mean that it's going to have an equal chance of picking any of its moves. Just because it has an equal chance of picking basic, aggressive, or defensive, that still means some moves are going to be more likely and some will be less likely. There is another personality type called random. Makuho famously has a lot of random points. So Makuho has 4 points in random and 3 in balanced. Random is exactly what it sounds like. Makuho has a completely equal chance of choosing any of its moves when it goes random. So you really don't know what it's going to do. It is probably the most unpredictable bot that we have. And it has more stats than you're going to have at this point in your career because you're brand new. So it's very, very, very difficult to beat. Don't worry about it if it beats you. It beats almost every new player. In any case, you use the same command, !spar, the name of the bot you want to fight, and then probably want to use advanced. Fight all 9 of them. Again, we'll do that in the beginner's training camp channel. Once you're done with that, we go back to the Gyoji hotline and give your record for the gauntlets. Just say, hey, I went 5-4 in the rookie gauntlet, 4-5, 6-3, 9-0. I don't think anyone's ever done that. 0-9, I don't think anyone's ever done that either. And like I said, that determines your placement on the Banzuke when you sign up for your first Basho. It doesn't have that much of an effect in the long run because you get placed by order of record and as a tiebreaker, whoever went first amongst all the other rookies at the bottom of the Banzuke. But the better you do, the higher you're going to rise relative to the other rookies, so you can jump right past them very quickly if you do better than them in your very first Basho. So again, if you don't do that great, don't worry about it. So you've run the rookie gauntlet, you've got a name, you've got your stats. What do you do next? At some point, you're going to have to join a Heya, a sumo stable. Currently, we have 8 of those, which we have on the screen right now. A lot of these you might recognize if you're a sumo fan because they're based on real-life sumo stables, real-life Ichiman, the groupings of stables. A few of them have been made by players, and more will be made by players as time passes. You can join anyone that isn't full. Each Heya is currently limited to 16 people, although I think only one of them is currently full. And if you're curious what they have to offer, what kind of people are there, there is actually a Heya recruitment channel, which you can find right here, the Heya recruitment page. The players and the people who run the different stables will, put up little advertisements trying to get people to join. It's all in good fun. All of the stables are essentially the same in terms of game mechanics. It's just, which people seem the coolest, which people do I want to hang out with. You don't have to do this right away. You do need to join a stable before you compete in a Basho, but if you join the game well before there's a Basho, and at the time of recording, it's still probably another month before we have our next one, you can take your time. You can choose at your leisure. Check out this channel, get to know some people, make your decision when you feel comfortable doing so. So when we're between Bashos, what do? Well, the main thing we do is practice. We do sparring matches. If you're a sumo fan, you may have heard the term Degeiko. This refers basically to practice. It's essentially just us doing matches during the off time. Now, does it actually add anything to your character? Yes, as a matter of fact. You can see up here, you've got this one individual who has DGK, which is short for Degeiko, 60 plus. Every 5 Degeiko matches, every 5 sparring matches that you do, you get 1 focus point. If you get 4 focus points, you can use 1 focus die during an official Basho. A focus die just adds to your total. It actually adds to your minimum total, but it gives you a numerical advantage for 1 round. So it's something to use strategically, but if you do 60 matches and you get 1 point per 5 matches, that means you get 12 focus points. It's 4 focus points per die, so you can get 3 focus dice available to you by doing a lot of practice between Bashos. A lot of players do this, but a decent number of players don't. But it is a nice advantage to have those focus dice. And when you're new, it's really helpful just to practice, just to get used to the game. A lot of the players have been around for a while. They are going to just beat you because their stats are higher. Try not to let your ego get into it. You're gonna probably lose a lot of rounds where you counter their move, but they beat you because their numbers are bigger. You will catch up. Over time, you will become what they are now. That's the nature of the game. It's called a role-playing game because you gain experience, and over time you get stronger and stronger and stronger. So don't sweat it if you lose a bunch of matches. In fact, the system used to be that you had to win matches to get the focus points, and then everyone kind of realized, well, yeah, but then newer players have a really hard time getting those focus points. So then they changed it to you only have to compete. You could lose all 60 matches, you still get the focus points. Play, have a good time, get to know people. Those sparring matches, by the way, are held in the training camp channels. Now, as you can see on my screen, I have these channels grayed out because I have them muted because they're being used all the time. That's my choice. You don't have to do that. That's up to you. In addition, between some Bashos, we have what's called a Jungyo event. If you know sumo, you might know Jungyo events as being those events where all the sumo wrestlers get together and they practice together in front of a crowd. They might have some practice matches. We can have a little more fun with that because these are computer people. They're not actually going to get hurt if they slip off the dohyo or something. right now, as I'm recording this video, we are in the process of starting Major League Sumo. This is something that's been done before, but not in a while. There are teams, there's a draft. They're going through the draft right now, but don't worry about that. If you join and you're like, hey, can I jump in the Jungyo? You'll be allowed to jump in late. We try to give people a chance to play whenever we possibly can. As you can see, we've got Major League Sumo channels up at the top there. The Jungyo rules, like how we're scheduling it, I don't even know that yet. That hasn't been released. So if you want to jump in, we always try to get people in whenever we can. It's a good time. When I started this game, it was when a Major League Sumo event was going on, and I came in towards the end of it, and they still slipped me in so that I could play during the last round, and it was fun. It was a really good time. So yeah, if you get a chance, if you see this video and you're like, hey, teams sound cool, jump in. It'll be a good time. And then the last thing to mention is a Basho. What to do, where to go, how that works. Now, we don't have one going on right now, but I can still show you where everything happens. So the first thing you want to do is sign up. We actually have a channel called Basho Sign Up. This will change based on whatever Basho is coming up. So this one says Nagoya. When the Aki Basho sign up starts, we will start doing that. When you click this link, you end up at this page. So these are the signups for Nagoya 2023, which we just finished. What you need to put is your name on the left, your rank, which if you're new, you'll just put rookie, and your Heya, your stable. This is when you're going to need to have joined one stable or another. Your intention, so the red one you see in Tai, if people are going to retire or they're not going to be able to play in that one, it's very helpful for us to know that. So some people are kind enough to tell us, hey, I have to quit or I'm not going to be here for this tournament, but the vast majority of people are participating. Hopefully you will be too. Height, weight, Mawashi color, Shushin, which is just where the wrestler is from. All of that is optional. As you can see, not everybody puts it in. But given that one of the most compelling parts about sumo is the size difference between guys that sometimes exists, a lot of people have chosen to put at least a height and a weight because they want to show where their wrestler exists on that spectrum. The Mawashi color, people have their colors. You can name the color or you can just put whatever the color is. That's a you detail. That doesn't generally come into play in anything but your mind and, how people view your wrestler. The same with where they're from. You can give them a hometown. You don't have to. That's totally up to you. And in fact, whatever details you put here, you can change every single Basho. There is somebody, and I can't remember who it is, their height and weight would vary drastically every time. It was like they went through a dimensional shift every single Basho. Gender doesn't matter. Race doesn't matter. And by race, I mean they could be an actual alien from another planet. Go for it. It doesn't matter. Everything is cool here. Once you've signed up and everybody's signed up and signups are over, now it's time to get ready. So from the sign up channel, we'll go to Gyoji Hotline. This is where you contact the Gyoji if you need them for anything, really. The readying process, I don't really need to explain because everyone does it at the same time, so you can just kind of watch what everyone else does and then copy it. The one thing you need to know is that this is where your stats get locked in. They become permanent. So you can play around with your stats like it's before your first Basho. If you had that 66433 or whatever stat line, you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I like that. You can change it. You can make it 44663, what have you. But when it comes time to readying for an official tournament, that's when you have to decide, and then everything gets locked in. It sticks. It's permanent. Once everybody's ready, or everybody's in the process of getting ready, the schedule comes out. The schedule is also known as the Torakumi, so for that you go to the Torakumi channel. The matches come out in blocks. That way people can get a lot of matches done at once, which is a lot of fun. And then towards the end, we have blocks with fewer matches, because then we can match up record against record, and then we have day 15 all by itself, because that just makes more sense. We want to be able to make the best matchups possible. So I'll scroll up just to give you an example how this works. So for Nagoya, we have day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So those matches can all get done in whatever order you want. You can get them all done in one day if you want, if you can find your opponents. That's great. The B stands for bot. You will have some bot opponents. I'll talk about that in a second. So the first block is 6. The next block, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, is also 6. And then the last 2 blocks are 2 and then 1. So we have 13 and 14, and then 15 by itself. For the bot fights, you can do those immediately. There's nothing special that needs to get done. Remember, you can use the Rikishi command to look up your bot opponents and see what their personalities are and try to figure out what you want to do based on that. You can also spar the bots in the training camp channels as much as you want if you think that'll help you figure out what the bot is going to do. You're more than welcome to do that. You can spar anybody. It doesn't count for those building focus points, the Degeiko stuff, but you can do it if you just want more practice. You can also use the Rikishi command. I'll go to Gyoji hotline, I'll go to bot commands. If I do $Rikishi just by itself, it shows Senshi. That's my wrestler. That's how you look up your own stats if you forget what they are or something. And then if you want to look up a person, you can look up their stats too. So on the right, we'll say Chiyonoshima. So I'll do Rikishi Chiyonoshima. And then I can see their stats. That's how that works if you're curious. Anyway, so once you've looked at the Torakumi and you know who you need to fight, as far as other players go, you can go to Bout Finder and you can tag them directly. If you're on mobile, this gets a little bit weird, but let's say I need to fight, again, to pick people from the right, let's say I need to fight Chiyonoshima, Akamidori, and Raime, right? So I'll do at Chiyonoshima, and then at Akamidori, and then at Raime. And that will bring up, I just say, hey, want to fight. And that will bring up their names. If you're on mobile, the actual usernames can get in the way of this. So it can be trickier to find your opponents when you're on a phone or what have you. But if you're on a PC or a Mac, it shouldn't be a problem. Once you've contacted your opponent and you want to get your matches done, that's when we use the Dohyo channels. This is also the only time, with rare exceptions, when we use the fight command. So before, we would say spar Chiyonoshima, and that would be a practice match. But if I want to fight for a Basho, an official Basho match, we use fight Chiyonoshima advanced. Simple enough. The vast majority of your matches for a Basho will be against other players, even when you're new. Hopefully you can get all your matches done in this live setting, so on the Dohyo. Be a good sport, whether you win or lose. Be cool about it if you win. Sometimes people struggle, they're losing a lot. Don't rub it in. If you're having a bad time, try not to take it out on people. Try not to yell about the bad luck of the dice. One thing to know about the bots is that you might be able to figure out that a bot has a 95% chance of picking a certain move, but the one time when you're in the actual fight, it hits that 5% chance of choosing something else and it beats you. This happens to everybody. It's part of the game. It makes some people really, really salty. Try not to get too salty about it. It is a completely normal occurrence. It's frustrating when it happens, but it happens to everybody at some point. So it's part of the game. Try to accept it to the best of your ability. And the last thing to mention is if you can't find a given opponent. Some opponents are just difficult to find. Some people, they like the game, but they don't have a ton of free time to come around and play live, or they live in a really wonky time zone compared to most other people. So you can see on the side we have Dohyo 1, 2, and 3, but we also have Slohyos 1, 2, and 3. If you've ever heard of chess by mail, this is sort of our version of that. You can fill out a Slohyos form, and if it's necessary, we can run the fight that way. I'll show you what that looks like. If you scroll up to quick links and go, see, I'm already at the top because I was prepared. Slohyos form 1. This is what you start with. So you put in your email. If you've already got a Gmail account, logged in, you don't have to use that. This is just the email that your responses to this will get sent to, so you have a receipt that you sent this in. You put in your wrestler's name, your opponent's name. You don't have to put the match day, but it's very, 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 very helpful to the people who are running the Slohyos if you do. Focus and fatigue dice, don't worry about that. People usually don't use them when they fight this way, and it's more trouble than it's worth to try to explain that right now. This is an old form. This needs to get updated. So the moves listed here are different than the ones that are currently in the game, but that's going to be updated before the next Basho. The layout is what's important here. You'll choose your Tachiai, one of your first 5 moves, and then you have some decisions to make. You could either win the Tachiai or lose the Tachiai. So if you win the Tachiai, you pick what move you want to follow up with. That's simple enough. But in case you lose the Tachiai, your opponent, depending on what they started with, they could end up in 5 different stances. And you have to pick the defense that you want to use for any of those stances. It's best not to overthink this too much. So for each of these, it shows all of the different defenses that you can use against an opponent who has chosen a given stance. Some people always pick their highest move. Some people, look at their opponent's stats and try to strategize it out a little bit more. If you have any confusion about how to pick good moves in a Slohyo, ask on the Discord. This is something where, yes, it would take a little more time than I think it's worth to explain it here, but also, I'm not an expert on this stuff. There are probably people who can give you better advice than me. I'm just showing you that this is here as an option in case you can't find somebody that you need to fight. Once you've finished picking your defenses, there's what do you do in case of Amada? Amada is a false start. In the game, it's considered a false start if on the Tachiai in that first move, the 2 players' numbers are within 2 of each other. So if one person gets like a 75 and one gets a 73, they do the Tachiai over. If you want to change what your wrestler does, were that to happen, you can put that here. Most people just leave it the same until they know what they're doing, at least. Newer players very frequently leave it the same. Also, in case of a rematch, which is unbelievably rare, you can say, hey, I'd rather do this instead of what I did before. Again, it's usually simpler to just leave it alone until you're absolutely sure that you want to change things. That comes with experience. Don't worry about it for now. Pre-bout ritual, not required. How much belly slapping do you do? Not required. That's just for fluff. Then you submit it and you're good to go. If your opponent doesn't turn in a Slohyo and you do, you get a forfeit victory. If neither of you does, you each take a forfeit loss. So definitely you want to fill this out if there's somebody that you can't find for any reason. And that'll do it for our walkthrough on how to play Road to Yokozuna. Hopefully the game makes a little more sense. Hopefully if you are the kind of person that can walk into a Discord server and be like, oh my God, there's so much, this will give you a path to follow to make it a little easier to get started. I really hope that if you are into games at all, if you are into the idea of playing a sumo wrestler, you'll try this out. There are almost no games on the market. This isn't even on the market. It's just a free thing you can play. There are so few games out there that let you take the role of a sumo wrestler that if you have any interest in it at all, give this a shot. It is a lot of fun. The community is awesome. If the core game loop itself, the matches themselves, really gets your interest, you're going to have a good time, I promise. So check it out. Come to the Discord. If you have any other questions, throw them in the comments. I'll do the best I can to answer them. And other than that, I'll see you soon. Have a great day.